5.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Please bow your head for a moment of reflection. Thank you. Are there any introductions, Jay, that we need to make?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay. There being none, the next order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Can we have a motion?
Move motion.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Marty. Tony Long, are you going to do the safety moment?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair Baker and members of the board. Before we have our safety moment today, let's take a minute to recall that in the event of an emergency, make sure to call 911 and alert others. If the emergency requires an evacuation, make sure to use the stairwell and not the elevator. And for those in the T19 meeting area, the designated assembly location will be the Baptist Parking Garage, which is located at the corner of Ashley and Main Street. Make sure to pair up with your safety partner, which will be the person to your right, and always be cognizant of the potential for trip hazards and the need to wear your mask in those situations where we are unable to socially distance. Lastly, please remember to keep your cell phones on silent and on mute when not actively speaking during today's board meeting. At this time, Chair Baker, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon Edwards, who is the company's Director of Security for today's safety moment.
Good morning, Chairman Baker and fellow board members. As Tony stated, my name is Brandon Edwards, and I'm JEA's Director of Security and Emergency Preparedness. A quick background on our department. The JEA Security Department is a member of JEA's Supply Chain and Operations Support Team, consisting of 15 security professionals and approximately 100 contracted security officers. These team members span across the divisions of operational security, physical security, identity and access management, and emergency preparedness. In addition, through a partnership with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, JEA Security has a permanently assigned JSO detective to assist us with investigative services and interagency coordination. However, the heart of our program is our Security Dispatch Center, which provides 24/7 monitoring and control of our continuous security patrols, incident response teams, fire alarm systems, and security technologies deployed at our sites throughout our service territory. All of our assets are leveraged to achieve our department's primary goal, to provide a safe and secure working environment for our JEA family, and to protect some of Jacksonville's most vital resources. With that in mind, this month's safety moment is focused on the JEA Security Awareness Program. In addition to the daily safety measures taken by each employee, JEA educates our employees to be aware of their surroundings and report suspicious behaviors to our department. JEA employees are required to take an annual General Security Awareness training course to continue and enhance their education on proper security protocols and potential security concerns. Recently, JEA has begun adopting a new security awareness campaign provided by the Department of Homeland Security called The Power of Hello. This approach consists of 4 simple steps: observe, hello, navigate, and obtain help. Observe is the first step and refers to employees remaining vigilant and observant of their surroundings for suspicious behaviors. These behaviors can range from unknown individuals attempting to enter a secure area, suspicious packages, or individuals loitering near the facilities with no explanation. The next step, hello, is the key to the process, in which employees may approach an individual with a simple greeting such as, "How are you today? Can I help you with something?" and try to uncover the individual's intent. This act of acknowledging a potential risk can itself be a deterrent. In the navigation step, employees are to ask themselves questions about the observed behavior. Does the behavior seem threatening? Do they seem to be avoiding security? Are they asking questions about business operations and schedules? If they reflect upon these types of questions and have any doubts about the behavior's intent, they move into the last step of obtaining help. For threatening situations, they're instructed to immediately contact law enforcement. All other reports of suspicious behavior is reported to JEA Security Dispatch Center for action. Well, I hope this gave you some insight into our department and one of our many protection programs. Our goal is to leverage the support of all employees and contractors working at JEA by making them critical parts of our awareness program and educating them that security is everyone's responsibility. With that, I'll turn it back over to Tony for the rest of the safety briefing.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Taking a quick look at our primary lagging safety performance indicator, you can see here that our recordable incident rate, Chair Baker, continues to trend favorably into the second quarter of fiscal year 2021. We're currently at 0.66, which is an all-time historical low, and we anticipate that trend to continue throughout 2021. And then lastly, Chair Baker, before turning it back over to you, I'd like to take a moment and recognize the company's electric generating predictive maintenance team, who recently achieved 13 years without an OSHA recordable injury. Very, very impressive, especially the hazards that that group faces each and every day. And we're certainly proud of this team for that very noteworthy accomplishment. So thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Brandon, and thank you to the predictive maintenance team. That's quite an accomplishment, and it's a great indicator of how well our operations are run, and I thank all of you. Next on the agenda is council liaisons comments. Councilwoman DeFore, you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Thank you, Chair Baker. Well, hello. I'm going to take that little safety tip with me as I move forward with the political arena. But what we do have right now is the septic tank bill that is running through the House tonight. In fact, it will be voted on this evening, 2021-0118. And I just want to thank you all for being a part of that. We couldn't have done it without you. So I look forward to having that passed this evening. Other than that, and I also look forward to your septic tank master plan and review. I think that's going to be critical in how we proceed going forward in addressing the septic tank issue. So with that, I really don't have any other. I've gone through the agenda for this evening. I don't really see anything that really relates to the JEA, but I'm certainly open for any questions you might have.
Questions of Randy? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you joining us as always. Now we'll go to comments from the public. Landon?
So are there any?
Thank you very much.
Hey, Landon, it's Jody Brooks here. I don't believe there's any public speaker cards. There's no one here for the physical public comment period. So if you want to do the virtual.
Sure, absolutely. This is Landon, today's host for the board meeting. If you have joined us and are wanting to do a public comment in the participant pane, you will see the raised hand option mentioned in the public notice. If you would like to go ahead and raise your hand to be recognized to speak, you may go ahead and do so now. For those that have called in, you may go ahead and press *6 or *3 to unmute your line and raise your hand. And lastly, if you'd like to go ahead and are unable to do that and would like to use the comment or chat feature today, you may go ahead and put in today's chat any comments or if you would like to be recognized to speak. Currently, right now, I do not see anyone in today's participant pane or in today's comments that have raised their hand or have posted a comment. So I'm turning it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Landon.
And Mr. Chair, Madrika, did we receive any email comments? Okay, thank you. That closes the public comment period.
Thank you. Jay, you have the CEO's report.
Sure. Thank you very much, and thank you for the board members that are here, and Marty Lanahan, Zachary Faison are on the WebEx. I appreciate the service that you all are providing to the community, and I want to thank you for that service and thank the employees for the work that they're doing every day as we work to improve the quality of life for the people of Northeast Florida. Last month I announced a new organizational structure. This month it was implemented. Jody, Laura, David, and Sheila are up and running. And I see it as an important step to bring some, what I would say is much needed stability and kind of a sense of calm to the employees and the community, and they're off to a great start. Early on in my time here, I think at our first meeting with you, I gave you 3 focus areas that I was thinking about initially, that was the leadership team, the COVID response, and the focus on our water and sewer capital plan. The LT, the leadership team, is making good progress with the changes last month, and we're on track with search firms and discussions with folks for the remaining 3 LT positions. The COVID response, I think we've made good progress, not alone, lots of help from medical community and others, but we've made good progress on that. We're on track to return to the office, although in a careful, deliberate, and thoughtful way, hybrid approach in July. And as I've said before, we're going to work in that hybrid format for the long term, probably forever. This will, I think, provide a better quality of life for our employees, which is one of our primary missions. It is to improve the quality of life for the people of Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, and that includes our employees. I think it will provide flexibility, and it will also support diversity and inclusion, as it will allow us to reach larger numbers of people that might want to work with us. The water and wastewater capital plan is still a big issue. We're getting a better handle on it. Today, you're going to hear a lot about the long-term water supply side of this issue as we discuss the integrated resource plan for water. This IRP is a directional document that will give us guidance for years to come, with an early emphasis on water conservation. As the COVID response starts to roll off the highest priority list, we are starting to focus on our strategic planning, long-range planning, and our team has met enough already to know that our focus areas, our strategic focus areas, really aren't going to change a whole lot. These are the things that we talk about when we talk about the things that we care about, and the things that we care about are the things that we need to be talking to you about and keeping you updated on, and what we should be working on. Those focus areas will remain the same. It's developing an unbeatable team, delivering business excellence, and earning customer loyalty. So as you would expect, the focus areas haven't really changed for a number of years. We might have lost focus for a couple of years, but they haven't changed for a number of years. And our team has been doing a good job all along. Next, we're going to be learning, understanding what good looks like for each of these focus areas, and how we reach good and how we sustain it once we get there. We'll have more to present to you about these strategic focus areas at the July retreat, which will be held at the West Side Service Center as we begin the process of trying to have these meetings in some of our facilities so that you can see some of the activities that are going on. The focus on the LT will continue until we get the last positions filled. Those are the Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief External Affairs Officer, and then beyond that, we'll fill key positions for economic development, communications, and corporate strategy. Beyond that, the idea of working on what I call the normal activities, we need to put some structure around our decision-making, get better at creating good processes and procedures to ensure that we're making good decisions, remaining focused on those 3 focus areas: unbeatable team, business excellence, and customer loyalty, making it easier to do business with us from the outside, and making it easier to do business internally with each other. We will provide the ability for employees to do their jobs with freedom and accountability, and we're going to work towards compliance and excellence. The Councilwoman DeFore mentioned the septic tank phase-outs, and we remain committed to work with the city as they find funding for the long-term project. We've committed the $12.5 million to help finish the Christabel subdivision, and the city is making up the rest of that cost. There's still a gap that the city's working on Beverly Hills. Over the last 5 years, JEA has paid $30.5 million plus this new $12.5 million. And we also fund about $1.5 million a year towards project management activities. And we're going to work closely with the city and our team and their team to figure out the long-term solution to this issue. On a good news front, we've received some promising information from J.D. Powers. The electric residential first quarter results are looking positive. The formal report gets released later this afternoon, and so Sheila, at next month's board meeting, will be able to update you on where we stand on that, but I think that we're headed in the right direction. So to balance the good news off with some more troubling controversy in the legislature. You heard last month about the surface water discharge, and we've asked for additional time on that, and it's working its way through both the Senate and the House. And it looks like they're gonna still keep us with compressed timeline. We're gonna try to meet that as best we can. Another issue that's in the legislature has to do with pole attachments. Amy Zuberly of the Florida Municipal Electric Association sent an update last week. There's a couple of bills in the House and Senate that are supposed to be helping serve broadband to rural, underserved communities in Florida. But I'm not sure that these bills are actually going to help this. The bills reduce the cost for people to attach to poles, and it really is allowing for-profit companies to be able to save money on that, but it costs us and our customers more. It also puts in place some rules and regulations that are a little hard for us to comply with. It seems clear this is a political and profit-driven kind of effort with the idea supposedly to be serving rural, underserved communities, but I don't think it really is going to help that a whole lot. While JEA fully supports the overarching goal of providing high-speed broadband and internet access to all customers, these bills are bad public policy, not good for JEA customers, would cost us more, and may cause some safety and reliability concerns. So we stand with the other public power communities in the state opposed to those bills. So I hope that the legislation and our local delegation will hear that. To continue the less than good news, we got an update on Friday. Southern Company and Georgia Power issued an 8K regarding the in-service date of Vogtle Unit 3. They indicated that the in-service date for November of 2021 is, in their words, challenged, and a delay is likely that could add on a month or more to the in-service date. Each month adds $5 million to JEA's cost. We will remain focused on this project, provide updates as we have them. In fact, at the next board meeting, we have a consultant, Roland Berger, to be in town to give you an update on the cost and where that stands. On a significantly lighter note, I talk about working with each other with courtesy and respect. I don't often mention that we should also have fun when we do that. We provide these important foundational services to the community, and I'm proud of the work that we do, that our employees do, and that I get to do every day, and I'm proud of the place that we get to work. We should have fun while we're doing this. We're about to show you a video of some of our team members that are having fun, because last night we turned the light on that we've talked about for a while, and I'm excited about the light turning on because I'm proud to be a part of JEA. I'm proud to represent you and the other employees everywhere I go, and I appreciate the work they do every day. So now our test of technology, about 10 minutes before the meeting, I asked, can we make this video go? So thank you.
Can someone please turn on the light?
Oh, I'm blinded by the lights.
Hay una luz al final del túnel.
Let's light this candle.
You light up my life.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Blinded by the light.
When the lights come on in the city.
It may seem like a little thing, but lighting the sign is important for the community, and so is JEA. So, well done. Thank you.
Is the light below it come on too?
Yes, sir. There was a lot of wind.
Sorry.
So, yeah, there's going to be all 4 lights, all 4 directions are going to come on and work. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that one up. And there will also be a light around the edge, so we're going to continue to work on that. But I really appreciate the team from facilities. It really takes everybody in the company, surprisingly enough, to make that light work, short-term, long-term. We had to buy it, we had to hire contractors, we had to keep things running, we have to light it up now. I can keep on going, the ties to everything we do. But I appreciate the team, and then particularly those employees that may or may not have known they were going to be shown on a video at the board meeting whenever they sung their songs. So I appreciate it. We should have fun. So that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions of Jay? Thank you. Great report.
I just look forward to the vocal briefing next board meeting.
Can you sneak us an email on the results of the JD Power so we don't have to wait till next month?
Yes. Not really sneak, but I'll send you one as soon as it gets released this afternoon, and we'll have more information.
And following Marty's point, is there any information we can read on Vogel? Is it?
Yes.
Y'all can provide.
Yeah, we'll get you update, kind of a summary of where we stand before we come into the meeting. Vogel continues we're in this now, and so there's some additional costs. There's some controls that we have in place to keep it from going too far. We haven't gotten to that yet, so more to come on the details on that, specifically next month, and in between now and then we'll get you more.
But, you know, where they are with the thought process. Have you talked to anybody at Georgia Power?
We get an update from MEAG each month that I sit in on, but have not met with Southern yet.
We're going to get the first unit. We get 110 megs. How much are we?
I'm going to see if Joe Orfano or Ricky knows how much capacity in the first is Vogel.
It's approximately 103, Jay.
Okay.
Per unit.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And real quickly, if I may, just circling back to Brandon and Tony's presentation, Jay, I just want to reflect to you. Really appreciate the safety briefings and the folks that we're getting to hear from. It's absolutely clear that safety is a core value. The safety track record is exceptional. And I wanted to reflect to these guys by way of recognition, too, that not only from the standpoint of protecting the organization and the assets, but, you know, when we come for board meetings, when I come for board meetings, the folks that help you park, the folks that help you navigate the elevator, et cetera, are just exceptionally professional and friendly. So they are courteous, and they're not only doing their job really well, but they're great ambassadors for JEA. So by way of recognition, I want to share that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, next on the agenda is a consent agenda, and the only item is the board minutes from the February 25th meeting. We need approval. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. We'll move to the monthly financial and operations report. Julie Crawford, will you start us off with finance?
Yes, sir, I will. Good morning, Chair Baker, and good morning, board members. I'll be presenting the finance section of our monthly financial and operations report. Our fiscal year 21 electric sales year to date are 3% higher than fiscal year 20 year to date as a result of customer growth and above average degree days. As you can see in the bottom right-hand box, our residential sales are driving the increase and in fact are compensating for decreases in the commercial classes. Our fiscal year 21 total sales are currently forecasted to be 12.3 million megawatt hours, which is slightly higher than fiscal year 20. Fiscal year 21 water sales year to date are down 6% when compared to fiscal year 20 year to date, and that is primarily driven by above average rain days. This reduction in irrigation is leading to a fiscal year 21 forecast of 37.6 billion gallons, which is 2% lower than fiscal year 20 despite continued customer growth. Our forecasted revenues for fiscal year 21 are up $34 million due to the lower fiscal year 20 fuel revenue as a result of the May fuel credit and higher forecasted sales. Our fuel expenses are forecasted to be $63 million higher than fiscal year 20, leading to an $11 million withdrawal from the fuel fund. And the $107 million of early debt retirement has been completed, which will improve our future debt service. The forecasted capital expenditures of $188 million will be funded entirely with current year revenues. Our forecasted revenues for fiscal year 21 are slightly down by $5 million due to the reduction in sales, and our expenses year over year are fairly stable. Our forecasted capital expenditure of $258 million will be funded with approximately $237 million of current year revenues, and the remainder will be funded with prior year capital fund balances. The corporate performance factors are projected to result in a 3% payout based on the fiscal year 21 pay for performance plan. We are exceeding the safety goal at a 0.66 RIR. Currently, we do not anticipate achieving the customer satisfaction goals. This is prepared as of a few weeks ago. However, we are projecting to exceed cost control goals for electric and wastewater and to meet the goal for water. And we are forecasting maintaining excellent financial metrics for both systems in fiscal year 21. These metrics are tracked by the rating agencies, and the current forecast indicates a healthy financial status. The combined electric system currently has debt outstanding as of February of $1.9 billion and is projected to be $1.7 billion by year end. And this includes the early debt retirement that was mentioned previously. The water sewer system currently has debt outstanding of $1.2 billion, DES $31 million, resulting in a JEA combined total of $3.2 billion. All right, this chart shows JEA's position relative to others in the state for typical residential electric bills. Since February, there were adjustments to Clay Electric, Duke Energy Florida, and Gulf Power. JEA currently stands right below the median of $124. I'll note the black line represents JEA's utility costs without taxes and fees, of which only 2 other utilities are lower. This chart represents a typical residential bill for water and wastewater service. There was one slight adjustment to the Brevard County since February. JEA currently stands well below the median of $80 with a 5/8-inch meter, and just to the right of it with a 3/4-inch meter. Once again, the black line represents utility charges without taxes and fees, of which only 3 utilities are lower than JEA. And that concludes my portion.
Thank you, Julie. Ricky, can you go to the electric systems?
Can
Yes,
I
sir.
ask
Good
a
morning.
quick question, John?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Julie, if I read that correctly, the commercial accounts are down, residential is really carrying our growth. Is that just a situation where post-COVID, we expect that to return? Is that a COVID impact, or have we projected that?
That's a great question. I do believe that's a COVID impact. As far as what we project going forward, I think, we've talked about the budget. We're going to set our budget sales kind of equal to what we set last year as to flat, just because I'm not sure if that's going to rebound going forward.
Okay. And then the second question, just a data point, would be that those are units. So those are commercial clients. Is there any large user within that commercial client base that we should inspect a little bit further? But so again, you don't have to answer that today, but it'd be interesting going forward.
Sure, we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Ricky?
Good morning. We'll go over our electric system update. So you see our scorecard here, pretty much the same as last month, except for our outage duration metric, SAIDI. It was in the red last month. Our February of 2020 rolled off, and we're now way below where we were last month. We're now at 78 minutes versus like 89 minutes last month. So we're looking good for this month, and hopefully we have a couple more bad months in the future to roll off. So hopefully we're on target to meet our goals this year.
At a trailing 12-month?
A rolling 12 month.
Okay, thank you.
Here you can see our generation performance on our generation fleet. Again, we're well below our goal. Generation fleet is working well. We have a slight duration on one of our units, so it had a slight increase on E4. But again, it's all in line and good performance from our generation fleet. And no environmental issues yet this fiscal year. Here's our T&D metrics. Again, all pretty flat. You can see the slight drop, or actually big drop for Sadie. So we're now below our goal. So we're doing good on our metrics on the electric system. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Havu?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board members. Good morning, everyone. I'll be going over the operation metrics for the water and wastewater system. Tony Long has covered safety and Julie Carver the sales forecast. I will cover the remaining scorecard items in the next several slides. Overall, we are meeting our goals. However, we are on pace to exceed our goals for water and plant outages and sanitary sewer overflows. We'll continue to develop proactive measures to monitor our system to avoid these events. These graphs measure the reliability of our water and wastewater systems. We experienced a total of 8 outages for the month of February, which affected 149 customers. Out of those 8 outages, 1 was caused by a third-party contractor that resulted in a boil water advisory. We also experienced 1 other boil water advisory because a critical user was affected. The majority of the breaks were on old asbestos cement mains. We are performing well on pressure, as our average number of minutes of water pressure less than 30 psi was only 1.8. And our customer response time remains relatively consistent at 69 minutes. These graphs indicate the status of our water supply. It is early in the calendar year and it has been raining, so we are well under the consumptive use permit. The consumptive use permit requires JEA to submit various reports this year, which is the 10-year and midway mark of our permit. We have submitted the reuse progress report, water conservation plan, and evaluation of our saline water intrusion mitigation plan in February, and are on pace to submit the remaining reports by May. These graphs indicate the health of our wastewater system. We had 4 sanitary sewer overflows to the waters of the state. 1 was due to a third-party contractor error, and 3 were due to pipe failures or equipment failures. Our total nitrogen discharge to the river for the year continues to be well under the 683-ton limit. The discharge is projected to be 416 tons for this fiscal year. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Questions?
So we had 7 water main breaks this month. That seems like a lot, but I don't know what's kind of our running average.
It's a good question. What would you say is a normal month for water line breaks?
For this month, it is slightly above average because I would expect the number of breakage to be less than 10. The more important factor is the number of customers that are being affected. So out of those 8 breakages, the majority were due to leaks and not huge main breakages, so only 149 customers were affected.
And the other thing is how quickly can you get back up?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the other piece.
Yeah.
So how many people and how quickly can you get it back?
How quickly is the most?
And the customer response time is that 69 minutes high? Is that if we have a call for a field crew to either do the work or get it, or realize that it's a more significant issue?
That's right. The 69 minutes is a measure on a factor where you have call it a critical issue, where from the customer call to the time that we can get out there and deal with the issue, we'll hand it off to a crew to solve the issue.
I think that's the big.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, just one comment, Chair. And maybe just me, but I know in Springfield, there's really a good uptick in infrastructure repair and all that kind of stuff. And maybe if that's the case sort of in Jacksonville in general, then maybe from a strategic communications point of view, we ought to make the customer base know there's an uptick in infrastructure. The good news, the bad news, you could be vulnerable to some breakages like this just because it probably is going to happen with folks digging up streets and all that kind of stuff. Just so everybody is sensitive to that, and not that it's a JEA only issue, their fault. Just it sort of goes with the territory. If you're increasing infrastructure repair, you're probably going to be prone to these breakages, and then just what's the right way to mitigate that.
Yep. So there's a lot in that. I think you're right. We need to be sure that we're letting people know that could happen, and we need to be sure that people know that if they're digging something, then they have to call the locates, underground locates, so that we can have that located to minimize that damage or potential damage. So the combination, it's 2 or 3 different communication spots, and we'll continue to work on that. Thank you.
Okay. Sheila Presley.
Good morning, Chair Baker and Board of Directors. Last month, I shared insights from our customer feedback, and as a reminder, we rely on listening mechanisms that include, among other elements, customer survey comments, social media, post-transaction feedback, and employee feedback. It's collected, analyzed, and it helps us to identify problematic touch points that increase customer effort and reduce customer satisfaction. Last month, I shared the insights from our residential customers, and the focus of this presentation will be our service to business customers. JEA has more than 25,000 customers, representing around 5% of the customer base, yet north of 40% of our revenue. The largest customers are listed on the table on the right, and that includes the Navy and the school district. Looking back to early 2020, and we made reference to that a little earlier, nearly 5 times as many business customers responded to the JDP survey that they are worse off financially compared to last year. JEA, we are partners in the community's recovery efforts, and we're committed to supporting businesses by providing helpful cost savings information and flexible payment arrangements to improve affordability. JEA Jacksonville has all of the necessary ingredients for growth, with low taxes, an entrepreneurial workforce, and supportive business client to make the area a natural spot for new businesses. Supporting these businesses is the JEA Business Client Relationships team that's comprised of a stellar team of call center representatives and account executives that tailor solutions to these customers. And among the many solutions that are available are financial incentives for large customers who expand their businesses and add jobs within the JEA service territory. So what do our customers care about? Fairness of pricing, efforts to develop energy supply plans for the future. And they want to hear from us, but they want to hear about topics of interest to them. What matters most to our customers matters to us. So we're constantly improving and looking at how we interact with our customers and how we serve them, how to serve them better. And as part of that process, we discovered that we were missing an opportunity to develop special communications for our small and mid-sized business customers and share information that's relevant to them. And those things that help them to thrive include lessons on how to reduce their energy expense, the rebates that are offered, energy efficiency measures, and billing alerts and notification offerings. Integrity and transparency in our business dealings matter most to these customers, and negative media coverage has eroded their trust in us and is mentioned more often in our J.D. Power survey than any other utility in the survey. And I've captured some of the comments from the most recent surveys. A lot of scams going on. They need to gain the trust of the public. Aside from the price, they need to maintain infrastructure, something we just talked about, and need to message better, and we will do that. On the positive side, they fix outages and keep customers happy and safe. The way they solve my problems, and they're really helpful, I would use JEA any day. And then that we provide good service on time for service needs, and we provide help when new services are established. The highlight of the Business Customer Satisfaction Survey is in the area of customer service. It is the only driver in the second quartile. We ranked above the midpoint of utilities in the South Midsize grouping when asked questions like, does JEA understand my energy needs? And is JEA easy to do business with? I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight one of the most recent service interactions with LaShonda Sconyers. LaShonda received positive feedback from customers. Her managers are contacted, and the customers share compliments on her service delivery. So if you'll allow me to, I'd like to read it in its entirety so that we can celebrate LaShonda and all of the other customer service agents. This customer said she'd like to commend LaShonda Sconyers for her professionalism in handling a special request for our business today. Every year, we request a summary of payments made to JEA to include with our expense spreadsheet when we submit our records to our accountant. Very likely this is a small business. LaShonda handled our request with great efficiency and professionalism. She even followed up, very important, with a phone call to ensure she understood what we were requesting, and further assisted me with another issue that we had on another account. I cannot tell you how refreshing it is to speak with someone who really cares and is committed to addressing customers' concerns. Let me be crystal clear. I speak with customer service reps all day as an insurance professional, and LaShonda should give classes to every industry professional that I interface with. Please do something special for LaShonda, and please let her know how grateful we are. Thank you, LaShonda, for your service to our customers. Taking that a step further, we instituted new focus on small businesses. As I mentioned earlier, we realized that we were missing opportunities there, and we've now developed a small business spotlight, highlighting businesses that have been helped through our services and programs, a special newsletter, and the creation of a new small business hub. And I'm really excited to announce that we're planning to produce webinars focused on areas of interest to our customers, an idea popularized by one of the top performing utilities in the customer satisfaction survey. Our communications team has created a messaging calendar to ensure timely, value-added communication with our customers. The customer messaging calendar includes a newsletter. It includes information about cost savings measures. This one is a newsletter, an email sent directly to manufacturers, letting them know about the sales tax exemption that they can take advantage of if they qualify. So all of these messages, our website, our social media, the emails sent to customers, or the creation of our customer communications and engagement team. And I'm thrilled to introduce you this morning to David Goldberg, who is the Director of Customer and Community Engagement at JEA. He leads a team of 19 talented members and is responsible for driving messaging shared today across owned, shared, and paid channels to create brand awareness and improve customer satisfaction. The team supports everyone in the organization. That video you saw this morning that Jay shared was one of their many productions. They produce all the communications for internal and external needs and facilitate the organizational community outreach, volunteerism, and charitable giving. I'll introduce David now, and he'll share a few highlights of his team's efforts. David?
Thank you, Sheila. Good morning, Chair Baker and board members. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you some updates regarding JEA's current communications and outreach efforts. Each month, we provide you a 2-page board report highlighting some of the many initiatives, campaigns, and activities our team is working on. This past month, we revised the format to more succinctly provide you an executive snapshot, including more measurable outcomes. As you will see in March's report, we recap February's activities. Highlighted at the top is our customer education campaign. After being dark, advertising-wise, for the better part of 2020, our team began working about 6 months ago to refocus our messaging on what matters most to our customers and community. How JEA is providing them value, how they can benefit from the programs and services we offer, and how we are helping our environment. The campaign, which kicked off mid-January, focuses on our commitment to quality and reliability, customer care, ease of doing business with us, and corporate citizenship. During the month of February, you will see the number of paid impressions, which represents the number of potential or expected views by channel. Last month, we had more than 11 million impressions between TV, radio, billboards, digital, and social media. Do more with JEA.com, the campaign's new microsite, has had 31,000 unique visitors with 52,000 page views over the past 6 weeks. We expect this to increase over the coming weeks as we are about to launch a promotional campaign driving digital users to the site. This past month, brand sentiment increased over 800% as measured by the amount of positive versus negative messaging out on social media. Jay's interviews and positive mentions, as well as communicating about our leadership changes, were part of led to this result. It is important to note that each month, this sentiment will go up or down based on the stories of the day. However, the goal is for us to see a positive trend over time as we move past some of the residual noise that has unfortunately taken a toll on our brand reputation, and we're working hard to overcome that. A few more things to highlight include a revamping of our residential and commercial e-newsletters, which will also include a small business version going forward, as Sheila just mentioned in her report. We are also one of the first utility companies to participate in the social media platform Nextdoor, which allows us to be able to message to specific neighborhoods across our service territory. If you have Nextdoor, you know this is a great platform to share things like water or power outages, road closures, and other geographic specific issues. We are constantly expanding our use of video across all channels, as you saw this morning, both internal and external, as video is the #1 way in which people prefer to receive information. Our team puts together internal videos to communicate CEO updates, employee recognition, and important training lessons. Externally, we focus our videography on things such as our community involvement, program education, and even some fun social media messaging, as we fortunately have a CEO in Jay who appreciates and has a great sense of humor, thankfully. Lastly, you'll see on the report highlights of JEA's community involvement, which is what truly sets us apart and shows the heart of JEA's 2,000 team members. We have a rich volunteer and ambassador program, which year after year has resulted in thousands of volunteer hours, hundreds of on-site ambassador activities, and hundreds of thousands of dollars contributed by JEA's workforce. This past year, even with COVID restrictions limiting us to virtual volunteerism, Our team members have given more than 1,500 hours of their time to various online programs. This includes helping children with reading, tutoring, mentoring, and even career advice. In the midst of the pandemic, our human resources team even solidified a partnership for an engineering academy program with Duval Public County Schools and Atlantic Coast High School. It was very impressive. As we continue to get back into real-world volunteerism and ambassadorship, such as the river cleanup we participated in this past weekend, our hours and activities will reach new heights as our employees are deeply committed to this community. I hope this report is helpful in giving you a high-level overview of the meaningful ways JEA is working to educate our customers and impact our community as a whole. Thank you again for the time to share this report with you.
Questions?
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, but for your consideration, it may be appropriate to send a letter of recognition from the board to LaShonda, Susan, and Steve.
It's a great idea.
Great.
And I just want to say, I love the momentum that I see in these presentations and our commitment to the community and the JD Power, hopefully crossing fingers that our scores will improve. It's just really a testimony to how dedicated our teams are across the organization. And just congratulations to everybody. That this is my favorite part of the meeting.
We also, I think in Sheila's report, talked about the partnership we have with the small and emerging businesses. And a couple of meetings ago, Mr. Van Osdell asked us about highlighting some of those. And at our next quarterly update on JSEB, we'll have some of the vendors that we work with, and we'll highlight that. And then the last thing I'd just add, I appreciate that this is the good part of the meeting. It is good because the team is doing a good job serving the customers, and then the numbers happen to get better. But they are not focused on the numbers. We spend a lot of time talking about that because it's the way that we can report out. But what we hope is that the numbers reflect the effort that the team is doing to serve the community and make good decisions around that, and they are. We won't get into quite this much detail each month, but I appreciated the change in the format, and I thought it was something that we should highlight so you could see it and understand the depth and breadth of the work that we're doing to help support the community. So.
The other thing, Jay, is there's opportunity on the big customers. You know, I think we have tremendous opportunity with, you know, the Navy.
Yep.
You know, there's some big customers. We should think through how do we get better, and how do we take, you know, win-win situation with each customer that's it's big in size.
Yeah, and Sheila, the larger customers have an individual person who's responsible for that account. But to your point, we need to spread that out and be sure that we're all kind of doing.
Yeah, but I'd step back and say, you know, some of these customers could make a big difference just on the edge of improvement.
Right.
Yeah.
Jay, along those lines, do we have off-peak pricing to the big customers that enables them to save some money while balancing our loads?
We do, and Sheila, I'm going to let you answer that. I think it's an interruptible product, and I can let you take that.
Getting off mute. Yes, we do, Chair Baker. We do have off-peak pricing, and Jay, you're correct. It's part of our interruptible rate program.
Do we get much utilization of those things that can attract business to the city for big electric users?
So I think more broadly than the and sorry, Sheila was about to answer it and I jumped in. So, but I think more broadly than that, one of the pieces that we need to work on in economic development, we have economic development rates and riders that we can put in place for new expanding businesses, and that's part of the team that we want to put together on economic development, is to be sure we're doing better at that. We have people that are participating in those programs, and we've done a good job with that. I think we can step that up a little bit.
Okay. Other questions?
Right now, 14 businesses in the economic development program, and we'd like to expand it.
Well, thank you, Sheila, and thank you, David. We have our monthly financial statements are in the package. Are there any questions of that anybody's got before we move on to the Integrated Water Resource Plan? Okay, hearing none. Hi, can you lead us through the Integrated Water Resource Plan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am pleased to introduce Rob Zamataro, a director over water and wastewater planning and development. He's going to go over the Integrated Water Resource Plan, which provides our strategic plan to meet water customer demands in the future. So I'll turn it over to Rob.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members. I'm pleased to be here. There is a presentation to go along with the discussion. And as soon as we get that up, we'll go rolling. But today I'll briefly talk about a lot of the options that were considered through the report, the factors that impacted those decisions and the recommendations, the proposed capital plan improvements, along with what are the immediate next steps for the JEA staff. Integrated planning is slightly different than traditional planning. The main advantage to integrated water approach is a holistic in nature. Viewing the water systems as one interconnected system enables us to find solutions that have multiple benefits. All possible supplies were considered in one form or another within this report. A total of 29 individual projects were evaluated. The 29 projects can be grouped into the categories here seen on the slide. The projects range in costs due to size and location. One example I'll discuss is that traditional reclaimed. When you have a project that's on our south side grid, where we have the facilities and the backbone infrastructure there, to expand the reclaim system, it's very economical at about $3 per kgal. Where on the west side or downtown, where we would have to do retrofits, not only to the plants, but also to the neighborhoods, where we'd be removing asphalt and putting in pipes after the fact, that cost then goes up significantly, and you can see it's over $5 per kgal. So the cost, depending on the location of the project, becomes very significant. Cost is an important factor. It's not the only consideration in determining solutions. There are environmental, legislative, and local economic drivers as well. Recently, you've heard from Mr. Wayne Young about some of these drivers. The Water Management District is in the process of finalizing the Keystone and Santa Fe minimum flows and levels, which has the potential to impact the regional aquifer withdrawals. Also, the Senate bills that are currently being discussed in the Florida Senate and House to eliminate effluent discharge to surface waters can impact the project selection as well. These factors also have to be balanced with continued economic growth in the area, which is expected to continue. At the present time, we are growing by 6,000 to 8,000 connections a year on the water system. All of these factors and drivers are kind of represented in the IWRP process through the planning objectives. All possible project options are graded on how well they met the planning objectives shown here: certainty, cost effectiveness, environment, community, and operational flexibility. To give you a quick example of how we would score projects, a project like ocean desal, for instance, would have very high water certainty because the ocean is pretty much consistently there, and the constituents and salt levels in the ocean are very constant. Where environmentally, it wouldn't do much to help us environmentally, it would actually increase our discharge, so it scored lower on environmental. When we looked at water projects that fall into the purified water program, their certainty didn't score as well as, say, ocean desal, but environmentally, it got a huge lift. So a purified water program scored significantly better on environmental stewardship because it not only enabled us to decrease water to the surface waters, but it also helped us with our existing well field sustainability. The IWRP recommendations.
question?
Excuse me?
It's,
Yes, sir.
yeah, we're talking about this discharge, and we never stop, but it's right in the middle of the legislature, and I think what we're looking for is time.
That's right.
And I'd ask the chair and Jay, is there anything we can do to work with our local elected officials and others to work with us to help us get language in there to protect our timing issue?
So the Senate has already moved on this. The House, it's in committee the last couple of days, and we've had meetings with representatives Friday, Monday, and we're continuing to try to get that in front of them. And so we'll talk about how to make that
I think the chair could be helpful there, or others, but I think this is a very important issue, giving us the time. We're not asking to not do it, we're asking for time, and I think it's a big number to do this in the time frame they're talking about.
Yes.
And I hate to interrupt, it's been on my mind that we should do everything in our political, from the chamber, everybody else.
Yes, and we'll continue to work on that. I think that's a good point. And we'll maybe get some calls for you.
Good, please do.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah.
It's been on my mind, too. Robert?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next slide, please. The IWRP recommendations are a balance between competing interests. There is no single project that can meet all the planning objectives you just seen. The recommendations will vary by type, size, and location throughout our service area. Project recommendations include water transfer between grids, water conservation, continued growth of the existing reclaim system, implementation of alternative water supplies such as aquifer recharge with purified water, and desalination of brackish groundwater. Water transfer utilizes existing groundwater supplies to its fullest extent. In 2004, JEA installed the river crossings under the Total Water Management Plan, and we are currently extending the transmission pipes further south to the Deerwood and Greenland treatment facilities. The IWRP considered a third river crossing, but it was found not to be beneficial or economical as a long-term solution. We are one of the few industries where we encourage our customers to use less of our product, but with the understanding that every gallon saved reduces the need for costly expansion. As part of the IWRP, there was a kind of a subset study done by the DSM team. Vicki Nichols under Laura Dutton did a fabulous job with the DSM program, and that is included as part of our long-term strategy. For the 7 programs shown here, the overall average cost to benefit ratio is a 1.5. This translates to, for every dollar spent in conservation, our customers save $1.45 in system expansion. So conservation is one of the more beneficial ways to extend our life of our assets. In addition to JEA's cost savings, the participants, excuse me, in the program will also enjoy reduced water bills, and we found up to 6.5 million gallons per day for savings through these 7 programs. In conjunction with these programs, JEA staff will continue promoting water conservation through public messaging. And I'd like to note that these programs can be started immediately. The sooner we start these and the more successful they are, it will directly impact our capital improvement needs for tomorrow. So our conservation program is becoming more and more important as legislative requirements increase. JEA's reclaimed water system currently covers the South Grid, Nassau County, with some industrial uses around the Cedar Bay on the North Grid. The system serves about 18,000 customers and provides 20 MGD of water, which offsets potable use. The current recommendation is to continue expanding these reclaimed water service areas within new growth that's adjacent to the existing system. As I discussed earlier, in areas like, say, downtown, it's not economical to develop a reclaimed water system, which requires digging up existing streets to install infrastructure. There's also limited potential users, so it makes not an economical selection. JEA's Purified Water program, called H 2.0, began in 2017. This program further purifies reclaimed quality water to drinking quality standards so it can be used to replenish the water supply in the aquifer. The technology evaluation and pilot testing was completed in 2019 with the assistance from the Water Management District. And I'd like to add that yesterday, Ryan Popko accepted on the behalf of JEA the Transformational Innovation Award from the Water Reuse Organization, which is a national organization that recognized the work that was done on phase one of this project. Although this concept is relatively new locally, it has been successfully implemented around the United States for decades. And we are currently in phase two of the program. And we are in the process of securing property for the demonstration facility, which will prioritize treatment optimization, which will lead to overall cost savings in the future, staff training and operator certification, aquifer testing, and public education program. And the facility will be designed to allow public tours of the facility. This is one of those projects I spoke about earlier that kind of provides multiple benefits. Not only does purified water help with the water supply, it could also help eliminate discharge to the river. Aquifer recharge is an option combined with the purified water program that will help protect our existing water supply for long-term sustainability. It reduces the community's water footprint by returning water back to the aquifer from which it was pumped. An aquifer recharge will result in additional credits on a consumptive use permit, and we'll have a proportional increase to our available withdrawals. Brackish groundwater was used in very limited capacity. It was selected in areas where water was not already committed to customers for irrigation and where there was not available for purified water program. This is where brackish water was utilized. Brackish water is located deeper than our current groundwater source. Generally, the deeper you go, the higher the salinity of the water. The source water will require reverse osmosis to remove the salts and other constituents excuse me, from the water before it's considered potable. One important aspect is even though this does not help reduce discharge to the river, it is easily implemented in locations where the needs are. So it has both pluses and minuses. The overall capital plan for the IWRP is approximately $425 million over the next 20 years. The majority of the work falls outside the current 5-year capital improvement plan. The scheduling showed here is based on when the community's need for the water was forecasted. And there's a lot of factors that will affect the size and the timing of these projects as we move forward. Economic growth, proposed legislation, as was just discussed, and our stakeholder meetings and grant funding. So this is subject to change as we turn outward with our plan. It will evolve and adapt. The immediate steps for the JEA staff and as we move forward is to continue on with the demonstration phase of the purified water program, secure the property and begin design this year, establish a long-term funding plan for the recommended projects, and begin reaching out to stakeholders such as the Water Management District, environmental protection, environmental groups, and others. And before I open the floor for discussion, I would like to give thanks to the JEA team. This was a multi-group project. Everybody from the demand-side management, environmental operations, and our consultant, CDM Smith, all contributed to the findings in the report. Thank you.
So what is the plan as far as next steps on this? Did we approve this plan at a later meeting, or?
I don't think it gets approved. It's a presentation. What we'll do is meet with some of the stakeholders, as Rob just talked about, the Riverkeeper and some other stakeholders. Be sure that we've got everything covered, and we'll let you know how that goes. And then this will fold into our long-range plan and our 5-year plan and capital plan as we move forward. I think it's not a technical approval that we need for this document. I do kind of reiterate, we jumped over it a little bit quickly. The traditional groundwater is 65 cents per 1,000 gallons and everything else that we're choosing from is the next one is water conservation. It's 2 to 4, 5 times more expensive. And then all the others are more than that. So they're 3, 5, 10 times more expensive. So we will continue to use traditional groundwater as much as we can, and then really focus on the water conservation side, because I think that helps the customers long-term and kind of manages our cost. But the other projects that Rob mentioned are long-term. So even if we start them now, 5, 6, 8, 10 years down the road to do that. So a lot of these projects are going to take a long time and have a long time horizon, which is why we have to tie back into the strategic plan and the capital plan and make everything flow. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, quick question for Jay. So I guess that's great news about the Innovation Award that was discussed, I guess, yesterday. But it got me thinking, so, and I don't know, I probably should, but for research and development funding and expenses that JEA does, how is that suffice? I mean, you probably can never have enough funding for research and development, but just real quick, what's your take on that? Do we need to look at maybe increasing the funding so that we can make some headway for some of this midterm, long-term type goals that we need to do?
I do. I think we need to consider what the right level and time for that is, and how do we go about doing that, and partner with larger organizations. We have some programs going on right now on the electric side with EPRI. We have this the project that Rob just talked about on the H2. I don't get this name right. H2.0. that we can do, and we need to continue to look at other opportunities. There's the Energy Authority is helping us with some analytics research. EPRI helps us with a couple of projects. We have some work done at the generation plants, and so I'm not sure that it is yet as coordinated as we would like it to be, but it's there, and we need to continue to work on it. We'll get more information for you.
Thank you, Jill.
And Mr. Chair, and to Jay and maybe to Kurt, ultimately, we used to have a while ago regular meetings with the Duval delegation. Are we continuing that practice? And if not, maybe we should reinstate so we're not playing catch up on legislation.
Sure. Kurt Wilson, through the chair to Member Lanahan. My understanding, it's been at least 4 years. We do attend the Duval delegation meetings at City Hall, but as far as hosting those meetings, I give you my commitment. We'll jump on that right away.
Yeah, they were really helpful in the past, and I think with everything we've got going on, maybe it's time to restate.
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Thank you.
Great idea, Marty. They need to be locked at the hip with us.
Yeah, and I think that, Kurt, thank you for that. I think it's, I'm just going to take the opportunity to focus back on the Chief External Affairs Officer, and the reason that's so important to have all of the things that will fall under that organization will allow us to tackle not only the legislation or the legislators, but at the state level, but also at the federal level, and other community groups inside of Jacksonville and the surrounding Northeast Florida region. So we absolutely need that to be a high priority, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
No, but I mean, even back in the dark ages when I was, back on the board, it was important. And a situation like this discharge, I mean, we got a speaker. I mean, somebody's going to be speaker in I think a year. And I think he needs to know how important it is to give us time. And I think, John, you've got a relationship with him. And I think what Marty mentioned is important. But some of these issues, they've got to understand we've done a hell of a job. And it's important.
Yeah, and I don't recall, Bobby, if we did those twice a year. I think quarterly might be overkill, but I know we had them with a regular cadence. Kurt, you probably know what we used to do, but it was highly effective, and it got us ahead of things as opposed to playing catch up. So thanks for agreeing those were maybe something we should reinstate.
Great idea.
I guess I should know this, but do we have a lobbyist that we work with as well?
We do. In Tallahassee, Kurt, that we have 2 people that we work with.
Who do we work with?
Through the chair, Hopping Green and Sam's and Gray Robinson are our two lobbying firms.
And
At
we
the
also,
state.
we also partner with FMEA and the state level, APPA, and other groups at the federal level. And I should just let this sit, but I think that the point is even more valid that there are things that have dropped off in the since the dark ages, that need to be reinstated. There were lots of things that were being done very well, and I think that in part is why we saw the numbers, the JD Power and other things have dropped, is that we haven't had some of the meetings with our large industrial customers, our large commercial customers in the same format that we've had in the past. We haven't had, there's a lot of communication work that dropped off over the last few years, that this is a piece of it. In fact, this legislation, and Kurt, you can correct me if I get this wrong, but I believe this legislation in a similar format went through with no comment at all last year from any of us, zero. And so it was a little worse last year than it is this year. So they've taken some things, but last year there was no comment at all because it was happening. This was pre you. So
yeah. But the other thing, and I hate to further this point on a federal level, we should work with Southern Company and MEAG to go back to the Department of Energy for some grants on this. I mean, this is the only nuclear power plant that's been built, and if you're talking about clean energy, the only way you're going to get to the numbers they need, you're going to have to build plants. So this is important to get this thing started and finished. I think we should meet with our Vogel partners and say, guys, let's come up with a plan to go sit down with DOE and reapproach some grants that we're going to need to make this project worthwhile, because if we can do it and complete it, it is an important statement. Can we build nuclear power plants? I mean, France has taken the lead, China's taken the lead. Why can't we? And this is lots of jobs, and it's clean power. And I don't know, how do we approach that? But I think we should think through it.
When Paul and I went to visit Vogel, the CEO of Southern made an effort to come visit us there. And so I think, we would be warmly received.
Right. We have in part because of that trip, we have a good relationship with them, and I think we can continue to have those discussions. So we'll continue to figure out what the next best steps are on really all of this. So this is, we started with this is part of the reason we talk about everything being intertwined. We started with a question about how we're going to serve water to the customers, and we hit legislative, commercial, industrial, electric, supply, distribution, generation. So everything's tied together, and we need to be able to have these discussions not only with the Southern and MEAG, but with all of the different stakeholders that we have. So thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, Wayne Young, we've got a Water Conservation Month. It is in, the proposed resolution was in our package. Wayne, is there anything you need to say to amplify that, or should we just go ahead and move forward with it? It's pretty straightforward.
I think it's worthy to just make a few comments. Good morning, Chair Baker and directors. There is a resolution for water conservation for vote and approval in your package. And I think it's very appropriate that this is following the presentation on JEA's Integrated Water Resource Plan. The resource plan really emphasizes our laser focus on delivering safe water to our customers. And it also highlights JEA's aggressive planning to help ensure our water supply is sustainable for the future. So this is, in fact, a celebratory type resolution in support of the state of Florida's recognition of April as Water Conservation Month. And it should be highlighted, too, that JEA doesn't just look at April. We consistently promote water conservation throughout the year, and we do so through various mediums. So the resolution is in the package for review, vote, and approval. And unless there is any questions, I don't have anything further to deliver.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to approve? It's on page 96 of the package.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it
Mr.
passes.
Chair, if you don't mind, Madrika, on the vote, Mr. Stein had to walk away, so on the minutes of the meeting, can you reflect that the vote was 6-0, because Mr. Stein wasn't present for the vote?
Okay. You want to say where he was?
He just had to step.
He fully supports it.
Supports it.
Just happened to not be here.
Well, actually, Mr. Stein's back in the room. Yes, okay.
Took our first vote.
7-0.
We took our first vote in months.
You weren't here.
Let the record reflect 7-0.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe Orfano, can we go to the annual disclosure reports, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chair Baker and board members. To address Bobby's question on Vogel and the DOE, before I get into the presentation on disclosure, MEAG did finance approximately a quarter of the total Project J cost with DOE loans. Now, they are not grants, but they are loans, and they are very low cost relative to what they could have obtained in the municipal bond market. So to your point, Bobby, we need to explore grants. I agree, but the DOE has been helpful to all the co-owners with loans to date. So to get into the disclosure, JEA is required to file with the MSRB, that's the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, annual disclosure reports to comply with investor continuing disclosure obligations. These ADRs are similar to SEC Form 10-Ks that you may be familiar with and contain operating and financial information relating to JEA's electric system and water and sewer system to include district energy system. They are then included by reference into official statements and reoffering documents prepared by JEA when we do bond offerings. Federal anti-fraud laws apply to any disclosures made by JEA in connection with its bond offerings and required periodic filings, including our ADRs, and board members have certain responsibilities when it comes to JEA disclosure. Generally, as board members, you may not authorize disclosure you know to be materially false or misleading. You may not authorize disclosure while recklessly disregarding facts that indicate that there is a risk that the disclosure may be misleading. Important to note that the omission of material facts is as significant a matter as making false or misleading statements. You must apply an elephant in the room standard. If you are aware of pressing operating or financial issues, then you are responsible for knowing how these issues are disclosed to investors before authorizing a bond offering or disclosure document. Various steps that can be taken by board members include familiarizing yourself with the disclosure documents and asking questions of JEA leadership or staff about the disclosure of such issues. Board members are not required to study every single word in disclosure documents. Instead, you can reasonably rely on JEA staff to prepare the disclosure materials. Delegation is acceptable as the SEC standard, provided that staff has both the training necessary to competently meet requirements under federal anti-fraud laws and has followed a sound process. The JEA board has adhered to these delegation requirements through its disclosure policies and procedures adopted in 2015 and most recently amended in 2019, which follow SEC guidance on the importance of written policies and procedures to be followed when preparing disclosure. JEA's disclosure policies address items such as proper preparation and review of disclosure materials and training of individuals involved in the preparation of disclosure. You'll recall that this board received disclosure training by our bond counsel, Greenberg Traurig, in April of last year. My report to the board stating compliance with Section 7.5 of the disclosure policy can be found in the board package. Two questions you may ask yourself in reviewing the draft ADRs. First, are you aware of anything that would cause you to question the accuracy of the disclosure, or that would indicate that there is a risk that those disclosures may be false or misleading? Secondly, do you know of any potentially material issues, including any pressing operating or financial issues or red flags that should be brought to the attention of JEA leadership or for which you would like further explanation? We intend to make the draft ADRs available shortly, and we'll ask for your approval at the May board meeting. Finally, I'm available as needed for phone calls or meetings if you have any questions or concerns with the draft ADRs upon your review. And with that, I will take any questions you may have.
Questions of Joe?
Hey, Joe, real quick. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So the training we did last April, that suffices for the biannual training, if I understand it right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll just remind the body that during the Finance and Audit Committee meetings, we end each of our meetings with time without staff in the room, with our internal audit team, with our attorney, auditors from E&Y, and with the city auditors. And we always ask, is there something that they're observing that we need to be aware of? And at this juncture, we've had no such findings or no such notice.
Thank you, Marty. Okay, and I noticed that at the next meeting, it is going to be on the agenda and we should, when do you think we'll get?
So there's it's actually going to be approved at the May meeting because of a shall in our language, that you shall get it before a meeting and then approve it at the next meeting. So we'll get it to you sometime in the next short period of time, and then it'll be for May's meeting. Shalls get us every time.
Shall is not a favorable word in that policy.
Yes.
But we have time because it's due before June, so we're fine.
Okay.
As long as
It's from a timing standpoint, we're fine.
Meeting.
We shall.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Ricky, do you have a report on extreme weather response?
I do, sir. I want to introduce Gary Baker. He's our Senior Director of Energy Operations. He's going to give us a overview of the extreme weather response that we had when the Texas weather came through in February. So, Gary, if you would, go ahead and take it away.
Gary, I think you might be muted.
Yes, I am. I apologize. Good morning, Chairman Baker and fellow board members. Just as a background, I am fortunate to lead a 24/7 control center groups, as well as a fuels, byproduct, and commercial natural sales group. And today I'm happy to deliver a short presentation on the Texas freeze during the week of February 14th and its impact to JEA. On the map on the left is a U.S. temperature anomaly map, which by color represents the differences between normal temperature and the temperature that existed on February 16th. I'll kind of direct you to the pink areas that starts in the Midwest and goes to the east. All of those areas had significant abnormal temperatures. If you look in the bottom right of the graph, you're talking temperatures that were 12 to 20 degrees below normal. Florida during this time was relatively normal, and Jacksonville was mild in temperature. The center graph represents the natural gas demand for both the electric and natural gas sectors. And the takeaway from this graph is that the demand was near record levels. And the graph on the right shows production. The red was the previous years. The blue is really a year to date for natural gas, and the big drop is some production shortfalls that happened due to freeze off in the Texas area. During the freeze, generation and load was impacted. This slide represents the ERCOT hourly generation. Just to let you know, ERCOT is the grid and market operator for about 90% of Texas. It's governed by the Texas Utilities Commission. ERCOT in Texas is essentially the same for the purpose of this presentation. The notes from this is with the abnormal temperatures represented high demand, loss of significant generation that affected all source, whether it was natural gas, wind, coal, solar, and nuclear. Natural gas was impacted by far the most. Causes related to this was freeze-offs or other temperature effects at the plants, either loss of fuel or issues at the plant that required forced outages. All of this resulted in load curtailment in the amount of about 20 gigawatts, which is a significant amount of load loss in that area.
Is it wind and nuclear was
Gone.
gone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nuclear wasn't gone.
Yeah, it was.
Solar was gone.
No, nuclear was shut.
No, solar's down.
Everything.
Well,
Yeah.
all,
Yeah, and this was due to snow and icing for the, and the abnormal temperatures, obviously sensors and things of that nature affected the plant operation. Solar covers covering of the solar cells, and wind, just icing conditions and so forth. A major issue for the Texas area. From a system pricing, as I indicated on the previous slide, ERCOT or Texas, ERCOT is the market operator, and they manage the grid, and by doing so, they match generation and load, and basically they drive the market by market pricing for load and generation. And as demand increases, generation levels diminish, the results in higher system-wide pricing. The prices increased up to a $9,000 a megawatt hour cost, which is their system max. It's a cap that was instituted in their system. Just to kind of give you some contrast, JEA's energy rate to its customers is $32.50. This is significant. And another contrast, our highest cost unit on diesel is about $150 a megawatt hour. So these are very severe, unprecedented type pricing in this area. And accordingly, the natural gas market and the purchase power prices followed suit. And the table that's on the right side that was impacted JEA, obviously we weren't buying in ERCOT pricing, but that pricing impacted purchase power. It impacted natural gas pricing. And from that, we had a $6.2 million impact to our fuel budget. This was due to the price of natural gas and purchase power, and to mitigate that, we converted our natural gas units above our firm monthly commodity gas to diesel or oil to minimize the amount of natural gas usage. And in fact, we brought our largest natural gas unit that has the ability to have a backup fuel back online to minimize the impact on JEA. All of this we were very fortunate because our load level was mild. If we were at much higher loads, it would have been a more severe impact. After the event and after the load shed event, natural gas kind of hung in pricing. Natural gas and power pricing hung in for days. It remained high for most of the week. Our plan was to minimize our natural gas, and we didn't purchase any additional natural gas that exceeded oil or diesel prices, or purchase power prices that would be higher than our units on oil or diesel. As I stated earlier, the $9,000 per megawatt hour price for ERCOT, all regions were impacted. The purple represents ERCOT. It's capped at, it shows 500, but it's really 9,000 just for the purpose of the graph. But all regions were impacted severely. If you look at the black one, that is the FRCC area, which is the state of Florida, of which JEA is inside. And on the 16th, the market price for purchase power was $300 a megawatt hour. Our activity during this event, you can kind of look at it in three pieces. On the graph, the pieces on the left was actually kind of above before the market went ballistic. The middle is where the prices were really expensive and we converted to oil or diesel. And to the right is natural gas pricing actually dropped below diesel or residual oil, and we were able to run our gas units again. Certainly there was little activity in the market on 217 and 218. That was the highest impact. The top part of the graph, if you look at the center line to the top, that's purchases. On the bottom part is JEA sales. And we did indeed have some sales based on diesel and oil prices during those sections. The small red that was during the middle were some hourly purchases that we bought that was cheaper than our oil or diesel pricing. In conclusion, this was a weather-driven event. It was really the collision of the electric and natural gas energy sectors. High demand, production costs followed, which increased power market costs, natural gas costs. JEA fared very well due to our ability to swap away from natural gas, but recognize higher temperatures here would have had more impact on JEA, even given the event was not in the state of Florida.
I have a question. Looking back, what would be lessons learned?
I think from ours is I think Ricky's going to cover a few statements on resiliency in a minute. But lessons learned, we actually did a lot of good things. We actually have significant amount of generation that allows the use of both natural gas and backup fuels. Lesson learned, this was an event that we probably didn't forecast. We kind of forecasted pipeline issues. We have seen commodity issues that affected us in the Northeast, but we haven't seen commodity issues that originated from the Texas and the Midwest. Those things, from a lessons learned, this is something we need to pay attention to. We have to consider the impact of loss of commodity in our plans going forward.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that we're doing. Jay has formed a resiliency team, and of that resiliency team, it's one of these extreme weather events we're going to focus on as well. So we have a lot of hurricane plans, but we're going to expand that to other type of plans, such as this cold weather event. So we're looking at many things from a resiliency standpoint on how we deal with these extreme events. Also, some of the other lessons learned is to reevaluate our fuel levels. Like at Northside, some of our residual oil level in the north side, some of our diesel levels at the other plants like Greenland Energy Center and Kennedy. Just some of the levels to have that backup fuel and when to have it and things of that nature. These are some of the lessons learned that we're going to go back and reevaluate, and it's all going to be part of this resiliency team that Jay has started up.
In fact, that's part of the reason we brought this up to you today, was to get to that point. That a couple of things are important. One is this was a cold weather event that occurred in Texas. And you'd think that we shouldn't have to worry about that, but everything's so intertwined that it affected the electric and the natural gas system. And as we talked about last time, this was a significant water event for many of the cities in the coldest area. And so there's a lot of lessons learned. The good news is that Gary Baker and his team are experts at managing our system, and they know an awful lot about how to do this. We're in the market appropriately and make good decisions about that. So we made, even though, as the charts and graphs showed, we could have had more trouble if not for a combination of decisions that were made years ago with our generation fleet and in the weeks and days leading up to this to be prepared to switch. Had we not had the fuel oil where we needed to, if we had not had the diesel where we needed to, if we hadn't had the supplies in place that we needed to, then this would have been a significantly bigger event for us. And so part of the lessons learned ought to be some celebration of Gary's team and the fact that they kept our system running really well. The more typically lessons learned are what are the things that could go wrong, and we're tackling those things, and it's more broadly than just cold weather. This is the team that we're putting together to look at this. It'll take us, we'll have intermediate steps, so as we find things out along the way, we'll implement those, but the bigger resiliency beyond hurricane process may take a year or longer to kind of go through, and there may be detailed studies that spin off of that, because we have to do more than just be prepared for a hurricane. So, thank you.
Yeah, and in addition to
great job.
I do want to give a shout out to the generation plant. These are fuels that they normally don't burn, so they had a lot of challenges in ensuring that all that worked. So Gary's team did great, but the generation team also stepped up and they handled all the challenges and gave Gary's team the resources they needed. So it was a team effort all the way around.
And the only thing different subject, but when we get a chance to do something similar on cyber, where we are and what.
Yep. Next, that's actually in anticipation of these questions and topics. What I was supposed to say whenever I had the mic just a second ago is that we'll be having a deeper dive into that at the next board meeting, on what we're doing and how we're doing on that. And Jody's going to help lead that part of that discussion. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Gary. Great job. Marty, can you give us a report from the Finance and Audit Committee?
My pleasure, Mr. Chair. As a reminder, we moved the Finance and Audit Committees to every other month. We've got a lot to talk about in that committee, so disregard the reference to quarterly that is in your package. We will be coming to the board proposing adjustments to rates. We'll probably recommend lowering the fuel charge and the higher base rate. You have some information in your package with the committee dialogue. I promise we're not going to spring that on you. We'll bring that to the board and have a conversation before we have any official rate hearings. And we're targeting rate hearings in June for changes effective in October. So more to come on that. We are working specifically with the fuel adjustment clause as it relates to our 22 budget assumptions. We'd like to have the fuel adjustment clause be more administrative than it is in our current process, and that'll be part of the rate dialogue that we come to the full board. Jay has already covered and Bobby's already brought up the interest in cybersecurity assessment. That is of great interest to Finance and Audit Committee, and I'm thrilled that Jody will be presenting at the next board meeting for us. The ethics officer, Willette, reminded us that we have ethics training throughout, through the end of April, and that we've implemented an ethics badge, which is a peer-to-peer recognition system. And she gave us some great examples that are again in your package of how we're using those ethics badges to reward associates for their behaviors. We spent a lot of time in the committee previously talking about our fixed rate to variable rate mix and trying to discern if we had the right level of mix given the current economic situations with interest rates. And we were able to meet with PFM, and we've determined are in good shape. There's a great presentation in your book I hope you've all looked at. We've got the right mix. We've been able to save about $150 million in debt service over the past 20 years using the mix that we have. And customers we have limited exposure to changes in short-term interest rates from our perspective. And remember, we have so much liquidity that we could end up changing pretty quickly if we needed to change our strategy there, but it's not anticipated that we will. Many times throughout today's meeting, we've referenced our capital plan. The Finance and Audit Committee continues to articulate that to the extent we have shovel-ready projects, it's the right time to do some fixing of rates. But we're taking a look at waiting for that capital plan to be in place so that we can take advantage of today's rate environment. Gary and Ricky just, I think, very nicely articulated our concerns of creating a market risk management policy to protect us against extreme weather, and we'll continue to evolve that as well. And I've already reminded everybody that we have one-on-one conversations with all three of our audit partners, and again, nothing was brought up in this past meeting that we had to address go forward. Mr. Chair, there was one action item. It's in our books. It's a minor revision to the energy market risk management policy, and I would pass it to you to entertain a motion unless there's any questions or comments about my presentation about what we discussed in Finance and Audit.
Thanks, Marty. Can we get a motion to approve the revisions?
Second.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Great job, Marty.
Great summary. Great summary. We also had a nominating committee meeting and approved the board officers to recommend to this board for next year. The same officers, me as chair, Bobby as vice chair, Marty as secretary. It's a little odd that the committee recommended themselves, but we are wide open for a coup.
But should we explain why we were picked to be on the nominating committee so people don't think we just picked ourselves?
We were on the nominating committee because the two closest past chairs on the board and the current chair were doing it. It wasn't a fixed job.
It was part of the policy manual requirements, so.
So the nominating committee makes a proposal to the board, and I guess as chair, I can make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll make a comment. I just give John a lot of credibility to bring back the culture, and I just, this city is blessed to have his leadership and what he's done this past year. We all of us walked into very difficult situation, and, you know, picking Jay was a very, you know, fortunate thing for the community and for the JEA, and bring back a positive thought process for our community. So I just want to make a statement, and Marty, what you've done on the finance, you know, and making sure that we've had the credibility back. And this board, you know, I know you think back of when we started, COVID hit, and we have two healthcare providers and a university president that really stepped up and dedicated their lives to making sure the people in this community were served, and both of them serve in very difficult areas. And I just want to compliment everybody on this board for doing what we've done this past year and bring this, you know, brand back and bring this, you know, asset back for our community, which was so important. So John, thanks for your leadership.
Well, Bobby, thank you for saying that, and I know everybody appreciates it. I would tell you all that this board has made every right decision, I think, and we've hung together when it wasn't always easy to hang together, and I'm grateful for all of you, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And Bobby won't ever say it, but I can't imagine anybody that's worked any harder than he has, from the building to trying to get rid of variable rate financing that saves us money, to other things that keep us on our toes. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, there hasn't been a vote. There was discussion.
Okay.
So for the slate of officers, there's been a motion and a second for Mr. Baker to continue as the chair, Bobby Stein to continue as vice chair, and Ms. Lanahan as secretary. Can we get a vote if there's no further discussion?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Was hoping it would fail for lack of a second.
No coup today.
We shall not.
Is there any old
No
business?
such luck, Mr. Chair. No such luck.
Is there any old business? Other new business? Is there any open discussion you all would like to have? Are you satisfied with the reports that we're getting? Is there anything that you're not getting that you would like? And if you don't have anything now, please be thinking about that, because it's awful easy to come to these meetings and we go through things pretty fast, though we're assuming that everybody's read the materials and understands them. But if there are things that you would like to see, obviously don't hesitate to bring that up.
Mr. Chair, can I make one request? This is Zachary.
Hey, Zachary.
Hey, I wanted to just make one request, and I know that when Jay came on board, and I know he's been doing just a superlative job. But one of the things that we kind of discussed as a board was our efforts around diversity and inclusion, and I just don't want that to get lost. And so, you know, at a subsequent meeting or meetings, if Jay could, you know, provide us an update on how we're moving in that regard. Again, I know it was something that we all were discussing, you know, earlier, particularly back during the summer, but I just don't want that to get lost. I think it's something that we need to keep our eyes focused on, you know, as we kind of move forward. So if we could have an update on just what our efforts are at some point, I would really appreciate that.
We will do that. And I can tell you that as Jay and I have talked about his senior leadership team, that is very much in the front of his mind. And you would be proud of how attentive he is to that issue. But thank you for bringing that up.
Mr. Chairman, this doesn't pertain to the reports we're receiving, but rather the delivery. And I want to commend Jay. We're hearing from different voices, different leaders from within the organization that are getting to present their areas of expertise and what their teams are doing. And it takes humility as a leader to provide recognition and bring your team in front of the board, et cetera. And I think that just enriches our understanding of the depth of the leadership expertise that's here, and it gives credit where credit is due, and I appreciate that delivery, so I want to give Jay credit for that.
Thank you. It's a good team. When you have a good team.
Clearly.
If there's nothing else to come before us, we're adjourned.